The former President Donald Trump has been charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records. The district attorney's office, in a brief summary, said that this is attached to a conspiracy to cover up a secondary crime that was not charged, and that is undermining the 2016 election. Again, that crime not charged. They mentioned the Stormy Daniels payment, but they also mentioned a broader scheme of catching stories. We know this happened through the National Enquirer, and killing them, making them not public, and that also part of the scheme. But again, that is not what is charged. It's 34 felony counts related to falsifying business records and miscategorizing things and tax payments, and that's the crux of the case.
Was the feeling in there blown away by all of these felony accounts? Was there audible gas? Let's talk about Mr. Trump and his reactions.
Well, I've never been in an arraignment like that. First of all, it lasted an hour.
Yeah.
At one point, Mr. Trump's defense attorney chided that it appears the prosecution is giving an opening statement. So never seen anything like that. As for what it felt like, there were roughly 20 state court officers in there. There were 6 Secret Service agents before Mr. Trump walked in. I would say that number grew to closer to 12 to 14. There was only 60 media members approximately allowed in. We were the only audience. There were no members of the general public, about 100 people overall in there. Mr. Trump entered in a dark blue suit with a bright red tie with his hands at his side. He fixed squarely ahead. Mr. Bragg was sitting off to his right before he crossed the bar. He did not look at the district attorney, Alvin Bragg. Bragg sat there with his hands rested over each other, did not react, did not interact with his assistant district attorneys who were presenting the case before the judge. Really, Mr. Trump only had to say a couple of things. First of all, not guilty. He uttered those words that we expected him to say, that he is not guilty of these 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. He also several yes and I do answers to the judge as his rights were being explained. And then another date was set. And again, forgive me for consulting my notes here.
Not at all.
I believe in December 4th is when the judge is reconvening everyone to chat about motions which are due several weeks prior.
December. That's pretty startling, isn't it?
Well, the prosecutor's office floated the idea that this trial could happen in January, and that would be an expedited calendar. Not a lawyer, so I can't speak to how expedited it would be. Yes, in January. The defense kind of bristled at this because they said they haven't seen any of the discovery, the many documents to make up this case, and the judge acknowledged they made a point. They're not going to calendar a date right now. There was also the issue about whether or not Mr. Trump would have to appear for each and every one of these motions. And the defense made the case that considering all that we are looking at right now, the expense, the time, the hoopla, if you will, it's just not worth it until the trial comes along, and then you'd see Mr. Trump day after day.
All this talk about a gag order. Any discussion of that?
Deep discussion about a gag order. And in fact, the assistant district attorneys talked about wanting to have a protective order specifically over discovery so that the former president couldn't go onto his social media platform and release all of that information. They seem to have deep concern about that. The judge sort of tabled that and asked the two parties to get together, working out some reasonable rules so that these documents wouldn't be leaked out. But the assistant district attorney's office read aloud the words death and destruction and mentioned some of the other threats, mentioned the picture embedded within an article that Mr. Trump posted of himself holding a baseball bat aimed at the head of Alvin Bragg. All of that was mentioned. And then in response to that, his defense attorney, in a poignant moment, let me find my notes here, said, Mr. Trump is just frustrated by something that is dragged out for 3.5 years, and he has a right to defend himself. The judge actually cut off Mr. Trump's defense attorney and said, this is not your client's First Amendment rights. This is about specific rhetoric that could lead to specific violence. At the end of it, there was no order given. A gag order, to be clear, was never requested. The judge said he'd be hesitant to give one at this point. But the judge essentially said, defense counsel, please talk to your client, the former president, and tell him to ramp down the rhetoric that might incite public violence. And then chastise the prosecutors a little bit, because we've seen these witnesses from the grand jury continue to march out and give press conferences. He didn't really like that.